Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rebecca Saunders Show. I am super excited today. Bringing all the colour and all the cheer is the fabulous Tina Tower. Thank you for coming on the show.
I am so stoked, finally. It's taken us a while to get this in the diary, so I'm very happy to be here talking to you.
I'm so excited. You're right. It has been a while, and you and I have worked together now, I think, for coming up to almost 2 years.
Yes.
Would that
Yes.
be like that's
Yes.
it's been a long time in the making. And so I wanted to bring you on the show today because I want to explore the world of online business, and I can think of no better person to talk about the world of online business than you.
I love it.
So you launched Her Empire Builder 2.5 years ago. Have I got that right? 3 years ago.
Not even.
Not even.
Not even.
Yeah.
June 2020 was our first launch. So
Wow. So
it will be 2 in a couple of weeks. Yeah.
slap bang in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
Launching a brand new business. Tell my listeners and viewers all about Her Empire Builder. What is it, and why did you decide to launch something so new in a time that was so unknown and a bit scary?
Well, that wasn't the plan. That wasn't the plan. So with Her Empire Builder, it's the most fun I have ever had in business. I think, this is my 18th year in business, and I feel like with this, I've found my thing. You do so many different iterations of business through the time and you try different things. And you're like, this is good, but there's certain elements. It's like, I feel like with the work I do now, it gets to use everything I have ever done and pull it all together to use all the good things and kind of put that there. So the way it came about, I ran a franchise before. So I ran primary tutoring centers. So I'm a teacher by heart. So I love teaching what I learn. And then I sold that company in 2016 and we traveled around the world for a year in 2018. And I was doing some private coaching. And a lot of people were asking like how I was doing the online element of it. So with my private coaching right at the beginning, there were things that I'd have the same conversations over and over again. And I'd notice myself saying a lot of the same stuff with like the principles of marketing and how to do content planning and how to do like lots of different things. So I put those bits into an online element so that when we had our one-on-one, because one-on-one's expensive. So I didn't want to spend that time like repeating the same thing that I just said to someone else. So it's like, do that bit online and then I can answer all the questions and get you moved forward in our one-on-one. And people loved that. And I hadn't had much experience with online, but I had created, like I'd done nothing but systems my whole way through franchising. So it's like, we can systemize this. And then when we got to Thailand, I was starting to get a little bit bored. And I was like, I wonder if
You're getting bored in Thailand. I love
that. Well, I mean, when you're used to running a big business, it's hard to then just do nothing but chill out. Yeah.
I did take my laptop on my honeymoon, but
And it's where, like, I know a lot of people think overwork is unhealthy, and I do think overwork is unhealthy, but there's a difference between overwork and doing what brings you joy as well. And so I ran my first like proper online course launch in August of 2018, and it made $11,000 in that open week, which blew my mind. And I know that's not very much, but I was like, oh my God. Yeah. This is amazing. Like, this is incredible. And then I became obsessed. So I'm pretty, when I get into something, I'm like, I want to know everything about it. I want to know how all of it works. And so I became quite obsessed, and then was teaching that through all of my coaching and thought, you know what? I don't want to do just one-off courses. There's different models in online business, and a lot of people do one-off courses. I like a membership model because I like the continuity, I like the accountability, and I didn't want that kind of just course and then the people finish and then they're gone and then you get the next lot kind of thing. Yeah. Like it just didn't work for what I wanted.
It's almost rinse and repeat, and it doesn't have the same satisfaction sometimes.
Yeah, you're not as much part of the journey altogether. And so we planned late 2019 to launch Her Empire Builder in 2020. and I was going to launch it with a retreat in Palm Springs. So Palm Springs is like my spirit animal place, and I love it. I'm like, we'll have a retreat there. It'll all look amazing. It'll get great social media content, and then we'll launch March 2020. So that was the plan. And so we had sold out the Palm Springs retreat, and then I was on the plane, landed in California on the 11th of March 2020, got the email to say, turn around, come back.
Wow, I did not know that bit of the story, that you'd actually landed in Palm Springs.
Yeah, I was there. And so for me, because, you know, I was so like, no, do you not know how much has gone into this world? Like, I'm launching this program here. It still took me like 36 hours to get the message to come home. I was like in tears in the hotel room going, no, people have all paid to come here. I can't cancel a retreat. Like, I can't, everyone's got their flights, everyone's got their, like, I can't do it. So it took me a while to actually catch up to the reality of the situation, which I think I wasn't alone in that. No
You
one
weren't
knew
alone
it
at
was
all. There were a
gonna
number
be
of people. Yeah, I
big.
think the
Yeah.
whole world was doing that, to be honest.
Yes.
Yeah. Is this
Yeah.
real? Yeah.
Yeah. So I came home, and we ran the retreat virtually, which was just weird, but it was the first of many virtual experiences. And then I didn't launch Her Empire Builder. I was like, okay, now is not the time to do that. Like, the world is in such turmoil. And I put on like this online business live and a whole lot of free resources, because we were inundated with mainly speakers and service-based business owners who literally rang going, Tina, I need your help to get online. If I'm not online by next week, like, I can't pay my mortgage. Like, we need you now. And so we started doing a heap of done for you stuff. I was like building people's Kajabi sites and all of that.
You were doing all the technical back end of what I was teaching people to film, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
We were
it.
both
Yeah.
sides of that coin.
Yeah, completely. And it was this real stage of like desperation. Like, you just had to do what you had to do. And so we put off launching Her Empire Builder until June, which I think we were still on lockdown at that stage. I'm trying to think of, I remember there being a lot of dressing gowns and like pajama wearing time when we were launching. And so, yeah, the first launch was June 2020, and it exceeded all my expectations, and it has continued to exceed all my expectations. And I think that's just another sign that it's so congruent and aligned with what I do.
Completely.
That was a
And
long answer to your question.
No, I love it. And you're right. It is congruent, and it is, you know, whilst you're getting the satisfaction and joy out of running it, you know, I know firsthand, you know, the members that are part of your community are
They're
also
amazing.
feeling that joy, and it's constantly growing, which I think is just incredible. You know, it's not just a one size fits all. It's constantly evolving as
Yeah.
you evolve, as people evolve, as the world evolves, which I think is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So in that though, right? So you are a queen of systems.
Yes.
I know that, you know, the best businesses are boring businesses, right? At the back end, it's systems, it's repeat.
Boring business is a profitable business.
Exactly. You know, it's a consistency piece. Where do you find the balance between the consistency of those systems, but also the creativity that you then need to keep creating and showing up for your members and for the business?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Like, gold question back. Because it is something that I think is really difficult to find that balance. And I think it's never perfect, because you don't want to break something that's working. But at the same time, if you rest too much on your laurels of it, what I see a lot, especially happening in the wonderful world of online business right now, is some of the titans of our industry that have been around for 10 years doing their rinse and repeat launches exactly how they always have. They're flopping. Flopping by their standards. Still, for most of us mere mortals, would be like stoked with the result, but they're like half of what they would normally do. And a lot of that is because what worked pre-pandemic, like what worked 2 years ago, does not work now. So I think for me, it's always going a combination of having our solid foundation, but also not being afraid to go better and to experiment and to fail. And sometimes I win at that, and sometimes I lose. And I think one of the biggest hurdles for entrepreneurs to get over is knowing and being okay with that you're not going to get it right all of the time. And as long as it's in the pursuit of trying to, like for my job, I've got to experiment because my job is actually to teach people what the best, latest practice is. But the hard part about that, like I can give you a real example from this morning, right? So this morning I had a question in what do we do for our wait list? Like when people are coming in wait list, limited launch formula, which is where I teach how to do live launches, there's one wait list email template. But with my recent launch, I did 3 emails. And so people are going, well, where are the 3 emails? But I'd never done that before. So because I'm reinventing all the time, I've got to like catch up to changing all of my things. So it is fast moving. And I've changed my offer significantly twice throughout the last 2 years as well. And so it's being able to like stick to what's working and not breaking the very thing that people are attracted to. But at the same time, reinventing that part that's going to always keep you ahead of the game, because once you get onto something well as well, there's so many people trying to copy that it's got to be a case of like you can't catch me. Like I'm always going to be better.
It's running fast. It says, as you said, it's that easy balance and making sure that you're always one step ahead of the curve. But in terms of it failing, have you got an example of where you've tried it and gone, oh, that failed a bit harder than I thought it was going to fail as you were trying something new?
I'll try and think of a specific example. So like for mine, I know I can pack, like if we're talking launches, I can pack things to actually in everything. I can pack things too much. So, and I think this, I'm not alone in this, is trying to value pack everything and go, you know what, I can give more. And one of the biggest reasons we lose people is through overwhelm. So for us in our membership, we've got a 30-day money back guarantee. So we either lose people in the first 30 days or we keep them for years. That's generally what happens.
Right.
So usually with our normal launches, so up until the last one, we'd launched and we get between 30 to 35 members each time. Like we were pretty consistent with that. And out of those, we lose 4 or 5. So we know the numbers, and out of those 4 or 5, usually 3 of them are because they're like, there's so much information and I don't know where to start and I feel so behind already and I can't keep up and I'm not good enough. And it's just the total overwhelm.
Yeah.
Totally. And I do the same with launches. If the biggest mistake I made when we were launching was we have our live launch schedule, but I was like, I'll go live in the morning, I'll go live in the afternoon, I'll put in a reel in the middle, like we'll just go everywhere. And it was just a little bit too much. People were like, I don't know which way to look. I don't know where to go. And so last time we stripped that back a lot and we had 70 people join. So like knocked it out of the park in terms of launch. And it was the simplest, easiest one that we had done. So that is one thing that I'm trying to learn is how can I get the value and the result across by not overwhelming the bejesus out of everybody.
Yeah. And that I've heard it firsthand in the creation of, the filming of courses of people where they go, I've got all of this stuff. How do I whittle it down? And I'm like, you actually could take that 1 hour presentation and make 2 or 3 modules out of it, and it's that spacing it out, because most entrepreneurs will go, but I can teach you this and this and this and this and this, and it gets way too much. So it's good to know that you can try it.
You're working with video. And I mean, even 2 years ago, most of our videos were like 30 to 40 minutes long. And that was really good. And we had really good watch rates. Now, if anything's over, I mean, we record masterclasses, which is a different thing. But if they're just like pre-recorded lessons, anything over 10 to 15 minutes, don't get watched. No. So it's constantly changing and being able to reinvent to stay the best.
Yeah. So in doing that, though, you've obviously got the consistency of the systems, which is awesome, but keeping on top of that stuff and constantly creating content and just having your finger on the pulse, how do you navigate your boundaries to ensure that you can give yourself the space to do that? Coming from someone that has done burnout and got to the end of 2 years of the pandemic and gone, whoa, that was a freight train. Resetting boundaries has been a big thing that I've been talking about a lot. And I know you and I have had the conversation before, but what are you putting around your time and your space to give you that creativity time?
Yeah. You know what? I reckon boundaries is the thing I struggle with most. Like, absolutely the thing I
You like
struggle
me,
with.
do you put them in and then wiggle them around?
I just, without getting too deep, going like I come from it doesn't take a psychologist to figure it out, right? And a lot of us have trauma where we've developed this people pleasing thing. And for me, I came from a broken home where, I don't have a relationship with either of my parents. And so you build up this thing and going, well, if your own parents don't like you, why would anybody else? And nothing is ever good enough. And you need this constant validation to say, hey, you're doing a good job. Hey, what you're doing is working, like to seek that constant validation. And so for me, I never like my most horrifying feeling is disappointing someone or have someone disappointed in me. And so the boundaries piece has been probably the hardest thing about growth. And that's where I got to last year, where things started getting out of hand again, where all day, every day, I was getting tagged on Facebook, sent messages on Messenger. And then if people couldn't get me on Messenger, they'd Instagram message me, then text message me, then email me. And I'd just be like, I'm getting hit from everywhere. And all of these questions that I'm like, I can answer and I want to answer, but I can't. Like, I've run out of time. And that was totally my fault because I'd set the boundary up and gone, anything you need, just let me know. And it became like this solver of all the problems of, if someone couldn't find a button for something, like I can help. But I'm like, oh my God, that's not my job. So the boundaries on that have been really hard because I am acutely aware of going, like, we're Australian. So we have this thing in going, you don't want to be too big for your boots. You don't want people to think that, oh, she's made success now. Now she's too busy for us. What an asshole. Like, that is something that I try and deal with every day to go, okay, how can I serve people with integrity and know I do that well, while still having enough time to go to the bathroom and drink some water and actually live my life.
The little things, right? That's a little thing
The
in
little
the grand
things.
scheme of things. Yeah.
Yeah. So that has been hard. And I think the biggest way to do that is a good team. So I love the team that I have now. I've worked really hard to find the right people, put them in the right roles, and make sure that everyone's looked after. So knowing that it doesn't always have to be me, but knowing that there's other people that can help, and then I'm an escalation for that. And so that's been massive in terms of boundaries. And then I schedule time in white space, which I have actually never done before. And we talked about this a little bit before we hit record. Like, my whole goal this year was to create more white space, not necessarily work less, but be scheduled less. And so it's like why we took so long to do this podcast episode is every month now I will do this many hours of coaching, this many hours of podcast episodes, this many hours of this, and once it's maxed out, it's maxed out.
It's full.
And
Yeah.
it's so weird to me because normally I go, "Oh, I love it. I don't want to disappoint her and say she's got to wait 2 months. Like, I can squeeze it in, but at what cost? Because you squeeze one thing in, then you squeeze all of it in, and then it's just, it's just this domino effect, and then we all end up burnt out. And
Yeah.
so that's been really hard. But what has happened is, from having this white space, oh my gosh, I'm then able to create all of these, like, my masterclasses, I think, have never been better. The resources have never been better. The relationships that I can make with other people to pull them into our program have never been better and more opportunity. Like, there's just so many things that I can actually serve people better by giving myself a little bit more space there.
It's
Which
funny,
is,
right? Like, it's
yeah.
it's so ironic to even well, you've said it right now, and we're shaking heads going, "It sounds so weird to give ourselves more space because then more things happen," but it's 100% true. Like, completely, you don't realize how unpresent you are if you pack things in
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Completely, which is, yeah, something I think we all are constantly striving to make sure we're ensuring we give ourselves that time. You're not
Yeah.
alone in that boat.
And it's very, and I mean, I know I'm in a really fortunate position too, in going, I have my husband who does most of the home stuff. Like, he's away at the moment for a week camping and surfing with his mates. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, how do women do houses, pets, kids, and high growth business? Like, it is a lot. It is a lot.
Yeah.
So like hats off to everyone. And you need that space. I think the expectations that we put on ourselves for performance, and the internet has made that even worse because there's no open
That's true.
close. Like you are accessible all the time globally. So like it never stops. So you have
Yeah.
to have those boundaries.
Yeah. And like on that note, being available on online all the time, I know a lot of us as big personalities in person when you meet us, but also like online, that we are who we are, really. There's no facade to it, but we're not considered extroverts, right? We're
Mm,
very, introverted people, which comes as a surprise to for people to hear that,
yeah.
you're so out there and you're so wonderful and it's so bubbly and loud and
Yeah,
fantastic.
you are.
Right back at you. How do how have you navigated having to put yourself on camera more as the businesses have grown? And I'm sort of leading this towards the craziness that is the Instagram reels where, we all got over, like, okay, we can film ourselves. We're good. We've got this. I can hit record on my laptop wherever I am. Then this whole new thing comes in and you've got to put yourself out there even more in a bit of a crazy way. How have you navigated that from sort of a personal perspective?
Yeah. So I'm very introverted, which I know, well, I think it's surprising to people, but then also not, because I
Mm.
think online business is an introvert's dream. Like it is our heavenly playground, because I think if you were very extroverted, most of the work that we do is alone behind a computer. So if you were extroverted, it would be very frustrating because a lot of the work is actually unseen. Sitting there making stuff, creating content, making plans, creating your systems, like sketching everything out. A lot of the work is
Hidden.
alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I figured out very early in my business that like I started getting into personal branding probably about, I started in 2004 and it was probably about 2008 that I started doing it because I couldn't afford traditional marketing. So I couldn't afford to place ads.
Yeah.
And so I was like, how else can I do this? And the response and the result from that was huge. So I have trained myself to be able to show up the way that I show up. But one of the main reasons that I put like a limit on this is how many masterclasses, speaking, coaching, podcast interviews, and everything I will do is I have a limit. I actually have a limit. And then I found like it just dropped off. Or like when my book came out last June, I did 70 podcast interviews over 6 weeks.
I don't know how you
And I
did that.
swear I didn't even know what I was saying by the end. I was like, I was so over myself that I was just like, eh. Like, that's not helpful to
Well,
people. I'm
that's
like,
it. You're on repeat and you're not present, right? Because you've packed so much in that it's just,
yeah. I
yeah.
remember like one of the last ones and they said like, what's the secret to success? I'm like, oh, just do the thing. If you want to do the thing, just do the thing. And then I just finished and I was like, oh my God, I have officially gone too far. And so like, I know I need to have boundaries on that because I do get to certain times. And there's certain times as well that like my son had an accident last October and that really threw me. And it brought up all of this stuff that I just didn't want to be on show. I didn't want that level. And I've tried really hard in going, like, I show up as I am. That was one thing that I can impart to other people that makes it so much easier. Is I used to think that every time I needed to be on video, I needed to put like makeup on, blow dry my hair. And if you do that on a daily basis, then yes, do that. But the thing is, you've got to show up how you show up on a daily basis. Otherwise, it's too much pressure and it's too much work. So I feel
Absolutely.
like I could do an Instagram video at any time because I don't kind of like yesterday I did one in my snuggie. Like it doesn't because that is me. So the more you show up as you, the easier it is. But then it's also going when you feel like you're too exposed and you're too on show, like take a break. That's okay.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
really key. And you hit the nail on the head there with just being yourself and being
Yeah.
comfortable in your own skin, right?
Yeah, and you see it videoing people all the time. It's really hard when you try and put on a facade.
Mhm.
Really
Yeah,
hard.
or try and I like implementing or not implementing, trying to emulate someone else. You've looked at them as that's what I want to be and that's who I'm
Yeah.
aspiring to be. And then you try and make all your mannerisms like that person and it's not you and it becomes a whole
Yeah.
mess. So
Yeah.
I think
Definitely inspiration from other
completely.
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's a
But your
whole
own
lot of
spin.
it that you need to go like get because it takes a lot of energy. And that's what I used to find that after big like camera days, I would be really sapped of energy. And it's because
Yes.
I was trying so hard. Whereas when I just like relaxed a little bit into my body and went, like I am who I am, then it's easy. It's just like right now, it's just like talking to you as if we were just talking across the table.
Yeah,
So it doesn't take
exactly.
that extra energy.
And
Yeah.
I think if if anything, that's the key takeaway listening is it's that finding that balance in yourself that goes, what am I going to exert the energy in? And if you're putting the energy in all those wrong places, then it's just going to make everything a little bit stagnant.
Yes, energy management I think is like the key to growing your business because there's so many obviously, we both teach technical aspects of business and they're needed. You need to know the thing to do when you've got the time to do it. But if you miss the piece on managing your energy and how to get yourself to perform and how to get yourself to do the thing that you want to do, none of that technical stuff matters because you'll never get to it. You'll never get the courage and the energy to actually do it because you're too busy over here running around like a chook without a head.
Completely. And we don't want to be that. And we're wanting to, get that energy balance right and explore more and be more creative. And thank you for sharing that balance of creativity and consistency because it's a fine art and it's a game, right? It's that
It is.
creativity piece. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a good key too, is going, people talk about it with balance all the time as well and going, I'm going to do this many hours of work, this many hours of home life, this many hours. And I've been guilty of that in the past too, but going, it's never right. Like you've never got it perfect. It ebbs and flows and it constantly changes. And it's just all this constant experiment. And you really do have to just enjoy the journey and find more play and joy in your everyday. Otherwise, it's totally not worth it.
No, it's that embrace the journey, not just get to the destination, I think
Yeah.
is a really key thing. That's
Yeah.
something that's on my board of embrace the journey. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just a thing people say. Like I've known tons of people that have built and sold businesses and focused on that destination and then get there and wonder why it feels so empty and hollow and why they're so
Yeah.
sad and burnt out. And it's because
Yeah.
everything was put on the line for that destination. And that's no way to live.
No, that's exactly how I felt getting my citizenship in Australia.
Yeah.
Everything was riding on that one piece of paper. And then I got
Oh,
there and went, hmm,
oh,
okay, like,
yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I think it's overly changed. What do
Did
I do
that.
now? And it put me in a spin
Yeah.
of what's the purpose of what I'm doing? And you're right.
Yeah.
If you don't embrace that journey piece, you kind of miss it. And that
Yeah.
could be months or years, right?
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Years.
Yes, we don't want that. But so Tina, thank you so much for coming on the show. You and I could deep dive into so many things, but
Yeah.
as we've both pointed out, we're not going to do too much overwhelm today. For people, where can people come and find you, learn more, and get more of your awesomeness?
Yeah, tinatower.com is where everything is. If you want to check out her Empire Builder, herempirebuilder.com. It's pretty specific who it's for. It's for women that want to build online courses and memberships on Kajabi through personal branding and organic. So it's pretty specific, but if that is you, there is nothing better in the world.
I can completely second that. Thank
Thanks.
you so much for coming
Thanks
on
for
the
having
show.
me.